Welcome to our amazing panel today. And I'm going to let each of the fabulous women on stage introduce themselves before I introduce myself.
Hi everybody, I'm Jess Hall. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Just Eat Takeaway.
Hey everyone, I'm Kelly Coutinho. I'm the Senior Director of Data Science and Analytics at Ralph Lauren.
Now, hi, I'm Cristina, Rutgers-Astolfi, and I am the Chief Global Head of Analytics for IKEA Customer Support.
Morning all, my name's Karen Brown. I'm the Deputy CTO at Sainsbury's.
Amazing. And I am the CEO and co-founder of Code First Girls. Just to give you a little bit of context about what Code First Girls do, we're the largest community of women coders in the world, one of the largest. We educate women for free, and we place them at absolutely fantastic organizations in roles like software engineers, data scientists, and we have a couple of clients on stage today, which is fantastic in terms of Just Eat Takeaway. So let's kick off with the impact of hiring diverse employees, particularly when it comes to retail. So Kelly, I'm going to start with you. According to Diversity in Retail, 76% of retailers now say D&I is a top 5 priority. Why do you think retail is paying so much attention?
I think retail's accessible to everybody. I think when I think about fashion retail specifically, everybody wears clothes. It's such an important part of how you look and feel. But I think ultimately it's the right thing to do, and fundamentally the right thing to do, and we have a duty of care to leave the world a better place for the next generation. And I think when we think about businesses as just a group of people and a team of people, and when you lead with people first and put those people in the center of everything that you do and ensure that there's balanced representation, that naturally happens, business results follow, and you make your position defensible. But I think also we're on the precipice of probably one of the biggest changes in our lifetime, or humanity, with the shift towards AI. So I think when we think about diversity, it's really important to think about different backgrounds and experiences coming together to build that future. My background, for example, isn't technical. I worked within the business and then switched, and I think that's been quite important in terms of thinking about how we think about the future in terms of technology.
Fantastic. Anybody got any other insights on this, particularly in relation to retail and technology and the importance of diversity, just to set the scene?
No, I completely agree with what Kelly was saying about the fact of diversity is so important, and also the diverse background. You don't necessarily need an education in technology, but it is important that you have that willingness to learn and to grow into that, and to be very curious. And that's very critical if you want to grow into that area.
Amazing. Customer data and insights are only as useful as the team that actually interpret them, right? What role does diversity have in actually interpreting this data? Cristina, I'm going to direct that towards you.
Diversity is key, as we were saying, in each field and sector. I come from the technology sector, now I'm in retail. I'm pretty new into retail, but certainly into data. And for IKEA, it is our customer base is changing so much, so that needs to be represented also in our co-workers. And for my team, I think it's critical because we lead through our countries and leading a center of expertise with metrics connection with the countries. And so we need to understand the flavor that and what is driving around the globe. And this is why when we look into the data, I need people that are coming from different perspectives. And so different countries, male, female, age, it's all equally important when we look into that. And I just wanted to quickly into a small example. When I joined, it was beginning 2022. We're still into COVID, and there was quite of a situation in China, and they asked me to solve this situation. It was quite challenging, but I had in my team someone from China, and it was so important for me to be able to understand the other aspect, and not only the Swedish area of how we do things, or how IKEA does things. So for me, it was quite an eye-opener, and also accepting that there are other ways of doing things.
Wonderful. Okay, so Jessica, I'm going to ask, in what ways have you seen diversity impact your technical team approach to product development in the last 5 years? Any success stories?
I mean, for me, diversity and inclusion is not just about doing the right thing. It's not just about society. Actually, it's very well proven in a number of studies across many years that a diverse team brings greater creativity. And with greater creativity, you typically see much more innovation. And in the product world, we are always looking for that innovation, that leap forward, that brings something to our customers that they really want to use, that makes them form a habit, that makes them want to keep coming back. So bringing all those perspectives together and creating an inclusive environment where those voices is heard is really good for business. It's what helps us move forward. And I have a number of examples of that in my team, and we've gone as far as setting up an inclusivity team within the product organization that looks at how we use language, that looks at how we design our products, making them accessible for different groups of people, and really opening up other markets. And I think that's also one of the key things here, which is that when you bring those diverse perspectives to your team and to your business, you start developing things for those different customers. You open up different customer groups, but there's loads of crossover. Famously, Netflix and other streaming platforms put subtitles on for those that are hard of hearing, but actually they are used by loads of different customer groups. I know in the middle of the night when I had a little baby and I just wanted to watch TV without waking him up, subtitles were key, and I know I'm not alone. So you start looking at other groups, but there's so much crossover, there's so many different uses, and you really only start to see that when you get that creativity of a really diverse team.
Fantastic. What was your favourite show, out of interest?
I mean, I don't think I can admit it because it's obviously some trash.
You're going to say Below the Deck, aren't you?
I may have watched that, but I cannot confirm or deny.
I just hope it was age appropriate.
Yes, it was age appropriate. I'm a good mother.
Anybody else got any success stories from a product perspective, particularly around innovation, actually? Anybody got anything they want to share?
I think from a Sainsbury's perspective, very similar to Jess, it's trying to join those dots, isn't it, between the colleagues that work in your organisation, the representation that they have, and how that represents the communities and the customers that we serve. And it's joining those dots and having that connection and thinking about, to Jess' example, how you use some of these capabilities more broadly. And what you think you are developing or you're designing or you're working through with your product community, whether that's innovation or whether that's just enabling and creating something better than you have today, is really thinking about the purpose for that and not doing that through one lens. And that's what that diversity of thought brings, isn't it? It's that variety of lens and variety of opinion, and actually listening to those opinions rather than closing them down. And we talk a lot in Sainsbury's about the junior voice, because actually that's the voice that we probably listen to the most and should listen to the most. It's the closest connected to our future customers. It's the closest connected to the next strategy. And so, we've got some really good successes like Jess of trying to create that community and start those pieces of work. But it's hard yards, isn't it? We all know it's difficult.
What does the junior voice mean? I'm now intrigued.
So for us, we can work in an environment where it can feel hierarchical, and we don't want that. We don't want the most senior person in the room to command the conversation or be the decision maker necessarily. You want those more junior colleagues, our boot campers, our jump starters, those that have just come out of a previous career swap, to Kay's example, to be the person that's saying, well, actually, no, I use my subtitles for this. Or, no, I use it for this instead, because then you get the richness of the opportunity and the next innovation, I think.
And I think it's about creating space for them as well, right? I think
Yeah.
kind of when you're in those junior positions, sometimes it's very difficult and intimidating to speak up. So how do you, as a leader, create that space for them to hold a conversation, and it doesn't necessarily need to be in the meeting. We often say to our teams, like, follow up with us, or just come and have a coffee, or just that open door policy as well. I think that that's really important.
I fully agree. We also run a number of hackathons through the year, and we commit to putting live the things that our teams actually come up with. So it's not just a theoretical exercise, and we've seen some really good quick innovation happen as a result of that. And that's beyond team boundaries. You know, that's people getting together that don't normally work together. And we actually invite in people who don't work in product and tech. You know, we actually had a really great entry from our customer service colleagues in Sunderland in the last hackathon, which was one of our winning entries into the hackathon. So, you know, it just yet again demonstrates that those different perspectives bring great ideas.
Fantastic. And it's one thing your product being representative of society, right? Because I think that's a really important point. But research by Accenture has found that some shoppers are willing to pay a premium to shop with retailers committed to diversity and inclusion. Karen, could you maybe share some of your insights into your initiatives and how this has actually led to an increase in demand amongst your customers?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? There's been lots of research in this space around whether or not, back to that previous conversation, you know, really representing the community in which you serve is a good thing for a business to do, and does it make business sense? And often, you know, we know in the organisations we work in, and many that you probably work in from the audience, there has to be a business case, doesn't there? Sometimes, you know, there has to be an accelerator for a reason why something is a good idea. That's quite hard when it comes to D&I. You know, in Sainsbury's, I think, you know, we're super lucky. We've got an operating board that recently in May has its first FTSE 100 50-50 representation. So right from top down now, we've got equal representation on our operating board. We've got targets and goals, and I think they're really important to be, you know, transparent about and make sure that we're talking about them. We've also got representations at that ops board layer at every level of diversity, equity and inclusion, and I think it's really important to include the three. And each of those operating board sponsors different areas, sponsors for gender, sponsors for LGBTQ+, sponsors for ethnicity, and then we have networks that run right the way across the organisation that lots of colleagues choose to join, not necessarily because you're from that representative community, but also because you're an ally maybe, and you want to support others, or you want to learn more for your future career, for the other future generations. It's also really important, though, that we recruit inclusively. So we've done a lot of work around what we call inclusive recruitment, whether that's the way that we recruit, who we work with to do our recruitment, how we show up externally, whether that's on LinkedIn, through some of the recruitment agencies, channels, our own social media. How are we really representing inclusivity at every single level where you see our brand? And that's where, you know, historically, probably all brands haven't realised how people subtly and subconsciously absorb a brand and connect that then to where they choose to shop, let's be honest. And then beyond that, there's much more about the culture in which I think, you know, you work in when you join an organisation, or you even interview for an organisation. Let's be honest, you know, it's a real difference now when you interview for a role, or when people interview with us for a role, because it's less about the work. It's actually more about, why do I want to work here? What are you doing beyond just the work? Because there's lots of places from a technology perspective, let's be honest now, that, you know, people could choose to work in. So I get lots of questions in that interview process about culture, about our behaviours, about our values. And one of our values in Sainsbury's is about being human and showing up every single day in a really human way. And that means being individual, that means being personal, that means really connecting with someone and understanding them for who they are. And then you translate that all the way through to the front end of our stores, and we have, you know, over 2,800 stores across the country that actually represents lots of different diverse communities. The colleagues that work in those stores are much closer to that community. So again, we do a lot of work innovating with our products, trialing them, experimenting them, spending time with those stores and those communities, seeing whether or not we've got it right, or whether sometimes we've got it wrong, or sometimes we've got it halfway in between. But I think it's a really long journey, and I don't think you can do one thing, Anna, to be honest. I think you have to do all of those things plus more to continually keep working hard at this, because actually the world around us, to the earlier conversation, is changing. and therefore people expect something different from us. And I think that's a brilliant thing for a future generation.
You're persuading me to shop at Sainsbury's.
Why don't you already? Let's talk about that afterwards.
Maybe, Cristina, if I can come to you slightly, because I'm really interested in what just got described, which is also about the experience of commerce as well, like lived experience. And I'm saying this because I have really fond memories as a child of IKEA and literally being dropped off at the ball pond when they had those.
Yeah.
But how important that was to kind of represent the experience of the family and the family wanting to be there. Like, how did you build that? What was at the core of that in terms of experience?
I was reflecting about the same thing when I was invited for this panel, and the family feeling that IKEA moved from sending products in a very nice, easy way to our stores and being able to attract the families and your memories, and the memories also of when you go to IKEA, you also have something to eat over there. I mean, that goes together. And I can tell you, every IKEA employee has to do some experience in the store once a year for 1 week. And I've been, in the summer I did that, and I've been selling hot dogs for 1 week.
I think that's literally living the dream.
I mean, there was a guy, the father with his children, and he ordered 10 double hot dogs. And then he told me, I really love your hot dogs. I said, oh, sir, I'm very happy that you love them. And so I made those 10 double hot dogs. That's about the experience, but also now with digitalization, obviously we need to look into our diverse customers. And I think I don't know if you've seen, but on Instagram, you're seeing those users of our products making fantastic things. Even myself, I'm following it when they're using some of our basic products and doing something really nice. That's what I'm also proud of, because with little money, we are the company for the little wallet. You can really make a beautiful home and personalize it as you wish. We have also our app, which is enabling to, I don't know if you used it, but you can look at the product online on your telephone, and then you can place it where you want in your home. I think that's also how we are moving into the next generation of students. I have children in the students' university time, and they are looking also for nice things, but not too expensive. So that's how we are diversifying in our product and the experiences of all the different. I have to tell this. I mean, also, I was at the store at 9 o'clock, and then there was a big jam of not more young people, more on their pension, having coffee, because the shop is opening at 10. But then from 9 to 10, you can have coffee and breakfast for €1, or very, very, very cheap. So they were just coming there for a meeting point, not really buying, but a meeting point. So that's also, I thought, I was reflecting about the experiences that we are delivering, independent of whether someone buys or not, but contributing to that.
It used to be my student lunch budget.
I was addicted to the hot dogs in my last pregnancy.
Kelly, if you can talk us a little bit about what role diversity plays in understanding and anticipating the evolving preferences of future customers. It's a bit harder than the hot dog question.
I think it's everything, right? And I think that I've probably drawn bits of what Jess and Karen have mentioned already, but for me it's really about thought leadership. And look, the customers these days, or consumers these days, are so savvy, so well educated, know what they want and want different things, right? What Gen Z wants is very different to millennials, and I think to truly put the consumer at the heart of everything you're doing, you need a team that reflects these broader perspectives, insights, experiences of society at large and where we're going. And again, I think to Jess's point as well, like creativity and innovation I think is key there. But for me, something that's super, super important with all of this is to keep educating and keep learning. And I think that vibrant debate that you have within a team when there are differences of opinions and different thoughts and interpretations is so important. And, you know, I don't think we can kind of underestimate that. So for me, it's really key to thinking about where we're evolving. And then also, again, just to touch on in a slightly different way, but the world is just changing so rapidly, so it's so important to kind of keep pace with that, right? I think India's predicted to be the largest economy, Africa kind of the world's demographic centre in the next kind of 10 or so years. I think we've talked about AI, but socially and environmental awareness is just the top of everyone's agenda and kind of conversation at the moment. So I think having your team educate you, and again, I think it comes back to something that Karen was saying, being able to learn from your team and having that kind of junior voice is also very important to that journey.
If I could add, I think the other thing that we all have to remember is that although we may consider ourselves to be diverse in some ways and we might fit into certain categories that are defined, there's so much intersectionality and there is so much variety out there that we do need to remain curious all the time, and we need to step into other people's shoes. We won't be able to have a team that actually represents everybody. It's impossible. We can do our best. We've got to go out there, meet customers, meet restaurateurs, in my case, grocery partners, talk to couriers, again, in my case, what is going on for them? What do they want? What are their lives like? And how do you innovate on that? Because we can't actually get it all in one team, and we need to remain curious. So I would really urge you to also think about how do you bring an external view in? How do you raise the voice from outside of your team as well?
I was at a talk recently in Amsterdam, and Just Eat was doing a big talk, and I cannot believe the number of markets that Just Eat has gone across.
Yes.
I mean, when we talk about evolution and going into a new market, what does that mean for Just Eat?
I mean, you're right. A lot of people think of Just Eat, especially in the UK, and they don't realise that we're actually in 20 countries. We have over 700,000 partners on our platform. We have 99 million customers, and we have thousands of couriers out there. So it's a big business with a lot of perspectives. We also operate differently in different markets to that point, depending on what customers want there, what the legal implications are. There's lots of different factors. And always when expanding into other markets, we're looking at the customer profile, the restaurant and partner profile. And what I mean by that is, traditionally we were a restaurant marketplace, but we now actually also sell electricals in some countries. We partner with Sainsbury's and sell groceries in the UK. And we're always bringing in new things that customers might want, and each market will have different perspectives or a different appetite for that. So that's what we're bringing in. But we also have to think about things like customer service. How do we serve customers really well when things don't go well? Because unfortunately that happens, and we want that to be great. So how do we bring the right languages in? Amsterdam is a great example because it is our homeland as a Just Eat takeaway, but for any of you who've ever been to the Netherlands or lived in the Netherlands, you will know that a lot of people don't actually speak Dutch. So we need to make sure we've got all those options available to the customers that want to interact with us.
And also, I can now say Just Eat in 20 different languages.
Oh, good. Can you sing the jingle?
No, don't test me now. It's okay.
Careful what you wish for, Anna. Careful what you wish for.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so Cristina, I know you mentioned that it's fantastic on the app now that you can place furniture. I didn't know that. I'm going to get straight on it when I get home. But can you give me some more examples of how you're personalizing the experience for the customer? And why is that? I mean, I know why that's important. Why is that so important, do you think?
Well, personalization is important, connected to diversity, to sustainability, to the diverse customers that we have. We have also from a product perspective, but also from a data perspective, because we have also a lot of people, unfortunately, with disability that needs to use our product. So we have a full program on that. And there are some very beautiful vases that you can use, and then easy for people to or tables or different type of products or chairs that enables you to stand up, also looking at more the elderly. But also on our products online, when you want to buy something on your blind or you are and it's difficult for you to see the colors or you have some other disabilities. So we have a full program on that enables us to come to that personalization and diversification of our products. So that's quite, I'm cooperating into that one, and I'm very passionate about it.
Does anybody else want to pick up on personalization?
I think if I can just add one thing, which I think is something that we all know, but it's really easy to forget when you're thinking about technology and personalization, is the age range in which now people are using technology. So you've got, babies and toddlers scrolling the iPhone to watch, I don't know, some Super Mario or whatever else it is, all the way through to my 85-year-old dad, who is better on his iPad and his iPhone than I am, let's be honest. Does his weekly shop, is clicking at Amazon and God knows what else. And there's something there about that personalization piece to those points, which is, therefore, it's got to be much more intuitive. It's got to be much more personal to the generation in which we're aiming at. And it's no longer one generation. And I think for so long previously, the adoption of technology was, somewhere around, let's be honest, late 20s up to sort of late 40s. And actually now the span is so huge. And as the world continues over the next few years, we know that's only going to continue to grow. In Sainsbury's, we're lucky. We've got the Nectar business, we've got the loyalty business that is Nectar, the largest UK's retail loyalty scheme. With that comes a lot of data. It enables us to understand our customers. It enables us to personalise more and target customers with offers, with prices, with challenges that they might have in their personal wallets and baskets. But with it comes a huge level of responsibility, to look after that data and also to make sure that we're targeting customers for the right reasons. You don't want to target someone that doesn't have a pet or has just lost a pet. You don't want to target someone that hasn't got children because they've never been able to have children. There's some real moral and ethical responsibilities that come with some of the personalization piece. And therefore, I think, we're asking a whole different skill set as well. We're not just asking for, the passion of product innovation and great engineering and brilliant architecture and technology. We're asking for brilliant data analytics, amazing data scientists, people that can use that data and actually make it more meaningful when we're trying to create products for customers and not upset them. Otherwise, to Jess's point on how do you then, recompense a customer or show up brilliantly when we get it wrong, it's more work at the other back end for other parts of our business. So, I think it's such a broad subject and responsibility as our world changes and the user base changes. But, super exciting that goes with that.
I think it's really, really interesting. Millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're the first generation that is likely to live to be over 100 years old. Their whole perspective on work and how things are going to change for them over their lifetime is very different from the people who are, in their 70s and 80s now. And I think that's where Code First Girls has a great role to play, because we will see more career switching. We will see people having more variety of careers. We will see people wanting to make changes in their 40s, 50s, even 60s that we wouldn't have seen before, when life was much more linear: education, career, retirement. We're going to see people dipping in and out of education. We're going to see much more of a blurry world about how people approach life, career, learning, and that's going to shape how people use technology. That's going to shape how we need to personalize things. It's going to shape what people want from the products that they interact with, and what they want from their lives. So I think we're in a really exciting time as well, from that perspective.
I asked my 89-year-old granddad what he wanted for his birthday, and he said he wanted to learn Python.
Oh, good for him.
Well,
Good for him,
I said we were
isn't
Code
it?
First Girls, and I was going to have to find him another gig. I'm joking. Of course, I taught him Python. Jessica, you've literally anticipated my next question.
Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, it's perfect. It just means we're completely in sync. It's going swimmingly. Just maybe let us know why initiatives like Code First Girls at Just Eat are so important, why you wanted to introduce it, because I know you're one of the main stakeholders and sponsors behind introducing Code First Girls.
So I've got a whole load of reasons why I think it's important. I've spent my whole career really trying to change things and being vocal about bringing diversity and inclusion to organisations. And actually, we used to work together at Sainsbury's doing the very same thing. And, you know, what I recognise is that especially for women, decisions get made so early in our lives that we can't then go and do computer science because we don't have the right A levels, or we haven't studied the right thing, or we didn't really know what we were supposed to be doing. And then that interest or that desire kind of gets killed off because you can't quite get access to the right things. But it doesn't mean that you can't be really brilliant in a role like that. So what I've introduced at Just Eat Takeaway is a rethink on the graduate programs of old. We have introduced an early careers program, and we're working with Code First Girls to bring in career switchers who, like I just said, want to come in and learn something new and go on to a different type of career. But more broadly than that, we've removed the need for a degree in computer science or a degree at all. We've challenged ourselves to access really diverse talent pools. And we've also challenged ourselves on our gender representation. We said we wanted at least 50-50. We've got 52% women who just started on our early careers program. Thank you, yeah. And I look forward to more of that. But not only that, we've got age diversity. We've got people who are joining in their 40s and their 20s. We've got different socio backgrounds because we're not requiring a degree, and that means that we can bring more people in. We've got different racial backgrounds, you know, all of these things that's helping us to really build a very high potential talent pipeline into our organisation. And I have no doubt that these people are going to go on to produce brilliant work for us. But, you know, it's for the business as well. I'm not sitting here saying I'm just doing all these wonderful things for society. I believe that by doing this, we will get better results for the team, better results for the business. And I think that's really important because this is not just a fluffy, nice topic of something that we can do on the side of our desk sometimes. This has real business implications which are very valuable.
Does anybody want to pick up on that career switcher piece and switching into technology? I feel like, is anybody a career switcher on the panel?
Ellie, yeah.
You career switcher. What do you mind sharing what you switched from? Or?
Yeah, I started off putting jam in donuts. I mean, it's a really simple story.
I don't know whether, like, for me, that's like better than the hot dogs. I feel like that could be on par.
I was young. It was great. I earned money. But, yeah, I mean, my career in Sainsbury's is completely squiggly. You know, I spent 18 years in our retail division. I've done multiple other roles in Sainsbury's, including the Director of Internal Audit and Risk. You know, so I've done all sorts of other roles before I became a Director in Technology and the Deputy CTO. So like many on this panel, you know, I'm a complete career switcher because I was curious and because I was inquisitive and because I was interested and passionate about some of these things. And I'm very lucky. I've had a great opportunity to be able to do many different roles and now lead some brilliant teams. And like Jess, you know, it's so important that we don't squash that, you know, desire, curiosity, inquisitiveness, passion. Otherwise you won't be happy, and it's a long time to work. You know, Jess has just given us those amazing stats around the fact that people might still be working in their 70s, 80s. They might choose to work at 89, Python coding in Sainsbury's, you know. So, you know, there's lots of reasons as to why I think it's so important that we keep those doors open and that we absolutely support career switching. We all go through different moments in our lives, whether you've become a mother, whether you've got caring responsibilities, whether you've been unwell, and therefore, you know, there might be a different reason as to why you want a career switch. But what an amazing opportunity there is out there to keep doing that. Kelly, you're a career switcher, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off my career in merchandising, allocation merchandising, then stuck in kind of financial business planning for a while. And actually, it was about 2 years ago, I was at a talk like this, and Anna, I heard you were on the panel.
You poor thing.
And you said something that really kind of resonated with me. And like I was kind of thinking about my future and what I did. I just had a baby and everything gets kind of thrown up in the air, at least it did for me. And you had said something about kind of the need to have more women in technology and to embrace different backgrounds. And I kind of thought, well, maybe I can do it as well. And, you know, went back to university, kind of did a load of courses on the side, was lucky enough to be able to switch and transition. I think the one thing that I'd say is what's been a huge journey for me is that talking about diversity is to embrace your background as well. Like when I first got this role and I was sitting in a room with really technical people that understood the technical world inside and out, and I didn't. I felt very intimidated and, you know, didn't always speak up. And I think over the last few kind of years, really, I've been able to start embracing the voice that I have and the perspective that I have from a business standpoint, and that's really kind of helped me grow. So I think, I think it's been really important. And to Jess's point, I think this continuous learning, this kind of non-linear path of education, career, retirement is completely going to be thrown on its head in the next few years. So I think kind of I'd just say, like, there's such an opportunity now to just learn as much as possible and to start putting that into action in whatever role that you're in.
I think as well, it drives me mad the way girls in particular are labelled at school. Like, you're not a girl in STEM, so therefore, you know, you can't study computing, and they're not picking computer science at university. And then as a society, I feel like we're giving the message that it's not okay to change your mind. And what that means is we all have to stay in our swim lanes, right? And it actually means that we've got this massive pool of untapped potential in women, that if we enabled them to change their minds, if we gave them a vehicle and the inspiration to do that, like, for example, what you're doing at Just Eat, we can bring some fantastic women into the workplace. And that doesn't just affect the workplace, right? That affects the family. It affects the economic empowerment of women. It therefore affects the community and will also affect our economy as a result. So,
Absolutely.
as you can tell, I'm a big fan of career switches.
Yeah. I think the interesting part is when you talk to men and women or anyone else that recognises any other gender representation, there are many career switchers out there that have got such broad experience and background of doing this, and yet we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big piece, isn't there? You know, and some of the brilliant work that Code First Girls does is bring some of those stories to life, bring some of these conversations to life and experiences, so that we can hopefully, with all of the work that we're doing collectively, change that conversation. Because there is something about, you know, we've all said it in different examples of our careers, you can only be what you can see.
Yeah.
And there is something there about not just seeing it, but hearing the narrative behind it and the journey. Because, you know, when people talk to us, I'm sure as an example, they don't necessarily know the journey.
Yeah.
They just know where we are today because we're interacting at this moment in time. And so I think it's so important that, you know, we keep the conversation going as well, because otherwise, you know, it's just you see what you've got in front of you, you don't necessarily hear the words behind.
And relate to the story, right? Personal stories. Yeah. I got interviewed recently on BBC Radio 4, and they'd done some research about me, which was a little bit uncomfortable because they kind of got under my skin a little bit.
I did listen.
Did you? Okay. Well, you would have heard then. So they did this whole, like, I felt like I admitted for the first time in public that I used to be a lawyer. And I felt like I was coming out, like live on air, about being a secret lawyer. And I was like, why did I feel this sense of, not saying shame, but it's almost like what you project to the world, you're that person, right? So I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business, creative for women, right? But admitting this, it felt almost very personal. But once I'd done it, there's so many women that reached out that connected to a sense of story, and that it was okay to change your mind. You don't have to stay and be the same thing. So yeah.
And we're not the same people, are we? Let's be honest. You know,
And are you the
I'm
same
not the same
person
now
at
in my
20?
late 40s as I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to be the same in my 60s as I am in my 40s. So, you know, I think it's almost chapters of a book, isn't it? It's almost like that was my chapter, and now there's a new chapter.
I think it's so important to talk about these things and to role model it. It is true that when you can't see somebody, it's much harder to make your way. My story is kind of the opposite. I actually didn't do tech at university, but I managed to get a career in tech thanks to Tesco, which I'm very grateful for. But there was a time in my career where I just could not see any women in senior roles. And I was really ambitious, but I also wasn't very confident. And I saw these confident men around me, and I was thinking, well, how on earth am I ever going to be like that? I can't do that. And I don't want to be like that. It would compromise my sense of self. And I spent quite a few years thinking, maybe this world is not for me. Maybe I need to go somewhere else. Maybe tech is not for me. And so now I think it is so important, and I tell that story a lot because I want other people to know that although I might be sitting here right now with lots of anecdotes and answers, it wasn't always the case. And I've made my way, and I try to do what I call lifting the curtain or pulling back the curtain for people, you know. Preparing for this, I had some help from my team about some of the stats across the organisation. I didn't just, it's not all in my head all of the time. You know, I'm not doing this on my own. We're all as good as the team we're part of. We're all as good as the culture that we're part of and all of that. So I just want to kind of share that because there are lots of different journeys, and I feel that we have to put it out there and be proud of the journeys that we've had, not ashamed of the fact that we maybe don't have exactly the background that is typical for the job that we do.
It sounds like whether we're leading or creating something for customers, being human is the most important takeaway I think that I'm going to take from today. I'm going to open up to any questions from the floor. Yes. If you say, I'll shout it.
Hey, thank you so much. That was really insightful. My question is, what advice would you give to companies that kind of need to ensure a diverse leadership team? Because as we know, the more senior you get, that's where there's a real lack of diversity still, especially in tech. So do you have any actionable advice to give to business owners or leadership teams to really take that into account as they scale up as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. I believe very strongly in the power of sponsorship. So looking into your organization, finding the high potential people who fit into those diverse groups, whatever they are, and really investing in developing those people to bring them up. And I think we have to challenge ourselves to walk the walk. How do you access a diverse talent pool? Where do you need to advertise? How do you change the wording of things? You know, all of those factors. But ultimately, it's also about, you know, a very honest and transparent conversation within your own business or within your own leadership team about what are we trying to achieve? Why do we believe in it? Because once you have that why behind it and you know what you're doing, you're much more credible when you go out there. You will make better decisions about hiring. But I think there's a lot of things, and I think Karen touched on lots of different ways to do that with your examples about Sainsbury's.
Yeah. The only quick add, because I probably know we want to get to another question and we're going to run out of time, but the quick add is you've got to set yourself some targets and you've got to be quite overt about them, and that can be really uncomfortable because you don't want anyone else to feel excluded. So this isn't about driving exclusivity elsewhere and inclusivity elsewhere. This is absolutely about making sure that you represent everybody. So it's hard to talk about targets and say, I want X amount of female or I want X amount of this ethnicity. But if you don't do that, it's really hard to ever get those metrics higher up in the organisation. So it is a bit of a balance piece, but yeah, I'm with Jess. You've got to do all of those things and then be quite overt about what your targets are that you're setting.
And I wanted to add something to that. I think it's also, at least from my perspective, what I've seen across cultures and companies, you need to have a sponsor.
Yeah, great one.
You will never, at this level, where still diversity is a nice word, but is not embraced at a leadership level, you need to have a sponsor who believes in you. And so there's also an important responsibility from a leadership perspective to be really open. It's not only a word, it's really to be open on accepting different behaviors. And that's not always easy. And so the person who will be your sponsor needs to see you as your human being and accept that you are different and willing to help you further.
This chap, really quickly, sorry.
I run 2 companies in Malta, completely different, telecoms and home and garden e-commerce. Just 2 points. One point that Karen made regarding you don't want to try to sell children's stuff to someone who's lost a child. The problem there is, how do you find out? I mean, how do you get this information about a customer without being very creepy, if you know what I mean?
It's really hard, but there's lots of data. There's lots of data that's available that you can use. It's also about asking customers. So we do lots of asking of customers of what sort of marketing would they like, what sort of marketing would they not like, checking in with them regularly, and using all of those different data sources that are available. Some of them we have to pay for. Some of them are available to us from our customers themselves. And it's about the frequency in which you keep those up to date to be able to show up brilliantly for customers. So, it's data, data, data. I spend my life, let's be honest, talking about data. Have we got it? Is it accurate? Have we got the right data? Are we taking the right actions and insight on the back of it? But it's a whole, plethora of different things that you can do to try and make sure how you show up for Jess is the way that you would show up for Kelly, and is different to the way you'd show up for Anna or for me, because we don't all want the same things. And Cristina, the expert, she wants something completely different.
I'm so sorry, that's all we've got time for. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. I'd just like a round of applause for these fantastic women on the panel. Thank you very much.